Uh, Hello. In this tutorial series, I'm going to try to show you how to develop mobile games using JavaScript's Phaser framework. Now, let's start with talking a little about Phaser framework and how I use it to develop mobile games. Now, Phaser is mainly for web-based games, HTML5 games development, and it's not commonly used for mobile game development, but it's totally usable, and I think it's a good method of game development for Android. Now, this will be a very code-heavy, actually code-heavy, like everything we will do will be writing code. Like we will literally code the game line by line. We won't use a GUI environment. We won't use any game engines or stuff. We won't use Phaser 2D if you're wondering about it. We will just use just the Phaser framework and JavaScript, then we will port it to Android using Cordova, Apache Cordova. Now, about the difficulty level, I think, for this tutorial series. Now, I believe that if you, even if you have zero experience on programming, you will be able to follow along with me. I'm going to try to explain everything as far as I myself understand. But if you have some spare time, I would suggest you to check some JavaScript crash courses. Not necessarily JavaScript, actually, just any object-oriented programming language will work probably. Just have some basic knowledge on programming. It won't take you then a week or two. Things will be much more understandable that way if you have some time to spare on other crash courses, whatever. Now, I'm not very I don't think I'm very capable of teaching you anything, actually. Like, I'm not very experienced with software development. I'm a student. It's my second year in college, sophomore year. I've been using Phaser since high school, like 3 years. I think it's been since I published my first game on Google Play Store in last year. I published it last year, and I will publish my 5th game soon, like in a few weeks probably. So also you probably recognized by now that my English is far from perfect. That's actually why I'm starting this. That's why I'm starting this channel, really, to get a chance on talking English. Cause really I don't get much chance to talk English. Like, my pronunciation is very bad. Like, yeah, I don't have any friends to talk to, so I'm starting this series instead, which is a good idea, I think. Because also there aren't much actually, I'm not sure there are any YouTube series that shows how to use Phaser for Android game development. Like, there probably are some series, but I'm not sure. I don't know, whatever. In this video, I'll just show you what you will need in order to follow along. Oh, by the way, you probably realized that I'm using a Linux operating system here, but every tool we are going to use will be also available on Mac and Windows. So yeah, don't worry about your operating system. doesn't matter. So yeah, first thing you are going to need is Cordova, and Cordova is basically the tool we will use to port our game to Android. Like the thing it does, it's basically think of a website. Like, I'm going to try to explain this simple because I consider there might be people with zero knowledge on programming following along this tutorial. So basically think a web-based project like a website or a web app, any kind of web app. And what Cordova does is basically it's kind of like opening that website on your phone, but making it available to accessing it offline. Like yeah, think of it like converting a mobile website to a mobile app. That's kind of simply what it does. Cordova, yeah. In order to install Cordova, we need npm node package manager. I'm not going to explain you what Node.js is because it's not much relevant in this course. So you will need Node and npm. If you are using Linux, like if you're on an Arch-based distro, you can just type pacman-s node.js, and yeah, it will install both Node and npm. If you're on Windows, just open browser, type in node.js. There is the official site, and yeah, it shows for Linux here, but yeah, in downloads you can see Windows, MacOS, whatever you need. Just it's a simple installer. Just download it, install, then open your command prompt and just cmd, and type in check your version, Node and npm. So yeah, I had a little unexpected visitor there. Whatever. Let's go back. Yeah, you can just download the installer and install it. Check from the command prompt that you get output from this. It doesn't have to be the same exact version you see here, because they get updated. Mine might even be a little outdated, actually. I don't know, whatever. Once you have that, you will just run npm install g for globally Cordova, and this will install Cordova for you. And then you can also check if it installed properly by running the same version command. And yeah, if this gives you an output also, you have Cordova installed now. Let's create our Cordova project then. Just go into wherever you want to store your project for this tutorial series. I store my Cordova projects in this folder. Just type in Cordova create, what should I call it? Let's just say phaser tutorial. Oh, I already created that. Okay, let's just remove it. And yeah, then you see. Type this command in a if you're on Windows, just from File Explorer, get into the folder you want your project in, and open command prompt in that folder, and just type in Cordova create and the project's name. It will create another folder inside there, and just enter that folder. You will see there these three, config, XML, package JSON, and the www folder. Now locate to that folder. This is where we store our project. Basically, you can see there are CSS and index HTML. This is basically like a website. Like I can actually run it for you. See, it's a website kind of like this. This is where we will be developing our game. Now, in order to develop our game, the main thing we need is of course the phaser framework. So I'm now going to show you how to get it now. And just search for phaser. This is not the official site, sorry. This, yeah, this is their site. You can see there's download and get started, the GitHub button there, and click it. Then there's download phaser from GitHub. Yeah, and you can see the links here. Now, all my phaser projects, I have been using the phaser min.js file here. And this one, the original one probably has some extra features and functions, but I don't know, it feels kind of bloated, I guess. This is 6.5 megabytes, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it is. And this one is just a megabyte, so yeah, it's much more minimal. It has everything you need. We will be using the min version throughout this course. So yeah, download it, then go to your downloads from File Explorer. Of course, this when I do CD and ls and stuff, it's basically just exploring files. You know, if you are using Windows, just moving around folders and copying stuff and things like that. So we will copy this phaser min.js into the folder we just created, the Cordova project we just created, into the www folder. Yeah, copy it there or move it, I don't know. Now, if we list our files again, you see there's our phaser min.js folder, and yeah, we will leave it here for now. This will be our project folder. Now I want to show you how to actually build and run our project on Android. Before doing that, I want to show you two more software that we will use throughout the series. One is called LibreSprite. This is basically a pixel art drawing tool. Like, you can draw tile sets, you can make animations. That's basically what I use. It's a fork of Sprite when it used to be free and open source. Sprite is now a paid program. I believe it's on Steam. Yeah, see, it's here. It's $20, I think. It's a $20 of price, but you can just download LibreSprite. They are really very similar. They almost do the same exact job, except one is free, the other one is $20. So yeah, you can download it for Windows, or if you're on Linux, if you're on an Arch-based distro, it's on our, just you can install it with TI or whatever. You can just straight up clone it from our, or if you're on a Debian based distro or something, you can just use AppImage. Whatever, Sprite or LibreSprite, whichever you want, just get either one of these, or you can use your own pixel art program, whatever. The other program we will use is called Tiled. This is a level design tool. Just basically it simply takes a tile set image, like here. I have drawn this, and you tell it the size of each tile and stuff, and then you can freely place them onto the canvas. You can create layers and objects and stuff, and it outputs a JSON file. JSON files are just minimal files that it stands for JavaScript Object Notion, if I recall correctly. Not sure. Probably I'm calling it right. Whatever. They are basically like, if I explain them simply, what it does is it takes this image I just showed you on LibreSpec, takes this tile image, then says like cut this part from this image, and it plays it on a location on the canvas. They look like this. JSON and levels, like they look like this. They basically, you see layer names, and yeah, it basically tells which block will be placed where, and Phaser takes this JSON file and gives us the actual map, which I can actually show you. Here you see it's my latest project. It's a knife throwing game. You got a bunch of knives here. You choose one, then you choose a level. Like, you also try to stick it to Apple. You know, there are IVs that it's too loud. There are IVs that bounce the knife and stuff. This is John Luck from Lost, if you recognize him. Great character. That's who inspired me to start knife throwing in the first place. I'm a huge knife throwing enthusiast. You know, we set the X and Y values, then set rotation speed, and throw the knife. Basically, it's a simple game I will soon be publishing. So yeah, it basically takes the JSON file, loads the image, tile set image, and just basically places certain parts of that tile set image in the canvas. It's a pretty simple procedure. That's actually why I enjoy working with Phaser and Cordova stuff. Just, you know, you have an idea, you understand what you're doing, and like, you don't place things and there are huge functions going on in the background while you're just working on a graphical user interface. You're aware of what you're doing. You just code everything line by line, and even when you're designing a level, drawing a map, you know what's it doing. It takes this image I just preloaded, cuts this part, this a 32 to 32 sized box starting from this position. It takes it and it places it to a location in the canvas. It's just, you know, it's understandable. You are aware of what you're creating, and yeah, it's important for me. I don't understand. I don't say that I completely understand every single function. Like, Phaser framework has functions that I don't understand exactly how they work too. But yeah, overall, you know, you code everything line by line. It's I think it's better than working on an engine that does heavy work background. Like, this is not heavy work. You just load a megabyte sized JavaScript file, functions and objects and stuff that will help you create your game. Just, it's minimal and it's not bloated. I like to code things this way. I don't know, it just feels simpler actually. Alright, then you have tiled, and I actually forget. Of course, you are going to need an editor, text editor, or an IDE. I will personally I will be using Vim. If you're new to programming, like don't start with Vim, of course. It's not like your regular text editor or IDE. If you have no idea of these concepts I'm talking of, like what's an IDE, what's an text editor, you can use either Visual Studio Code or Sublime, but actually we are going to be using Android Studio for different purposes on this course, so you can actually just use Android Studio to edit your code. It will probably work fine. So you don't actually have to install another piece of software. You can just use Android Studio, which let's create now. Before getting into Android Studio, we need to add Android platform to our Cordova project. So let's go there, open command prompt in that folder, phaser tutorial, and type in Cordova platform add Android. It will add Android platform to the project. Meanwhile, you can just go to Android Studio, type in Android Studio, then go to downloads here, and just it's a pretty simple install, really, to show you how. I think I didn't show you how to install anything actually. Oh, I did show how to install Cordova or whatever. So it added the Android platform. Now if you check the project structure again, there's a bunch of new things and a folder called platforms, and if we list there, you can see it added Android. Now if you install Android Studio, just open it. If you're on Linux, I don't know, I'm using Android Studio is so damn bloated that it keeps corrupting the video when I'm recording it. This is the third time I'm recording the Android Studio part. I rebooted and now it's using pretty reasonable amount of RAM. So this time I will probably successfully record it finally. So first thing you need to do is go to the SDK manager symbol here. Open the and Android folder. Do some stuff, Gradle build or something. There will be a bar down here. Wait till it's finished. It's a one-time thing. Then you can just go build an APK. Put out of RAM again. I hope it doesn't corrupt the video this time. Whatever. Just check build tools 30.0.3. It probably doesn't load all the versions because dorm internet. Whatever. You probably don't need SDK command line tools. I use them for Flutter projects. You won't need an emulator because if you use an emulator, you will still use mouse to control your app. If you want to test it with your mouse, you can just run WAMP server if you're on Windows, or live server or HTTP server if you're on Linux. So just test it on web at this point. You don't need an emulator, it's something heavy. We will just use our physical device to test it with touch controls, I will show it in a second. And you will need platform tools, so just check the platform tools and build tools 30.03, I think. Click on apply. It will download and install them for you. So you need to enable USB debugging in your Android device in order to be able to launch your app on your phone. I will quickly show you my screen. Here it's already launched, you see it recognizes my phone, and if you click on, there will be something like a, just click that, and here we will do the testing, using our phone. So yeah, that's basically our setup, and thank you for following this through, and